My roommate loves to kiss me when he faces an exam. He wanted a kiss if he was stressed, if he failed, if he was happy, or even if he was sad. Honestly, it had gotten exhausting. Finally, I decided enough was enough. From now on, kisses would cost $100 each. Jake didn't hesitate. He transferred me $1,000 immediately, practically vibrating with excitement. "Baby, let me get $1,000 worth of kisses right now," he said. My brain short-circuited. It wasn't like I actually wanted the money, but a man's word is his bond. Blushing, I mumbled, Don't leave any obvious marks." Jake chuckled softly, accommodating. "Okay, whatever you say, baby." That nickname made me flinch. "Didn't you mean, baby?" Jake planted a light kiss on my cheek, his breathing heavy. "What should I call you then? Sweetheart? Honey? We're hubby." That kiss made my body tremble. I figured he must be drunk, so I let the nickname debate drop. Whatever you want." Just a few kisses later, I felt my legs go weak, melting into jelly. I dozed off in a daze, but Jake kept kissing me. "There's $100 worth of kisses," he murmured. "Really? Did it take this long?" I was too tired to care. I vaguely heard his heavy breathing as I woke, sunlight spilling into the room. It was already past 10 a.m. thankfully, no class today. Breakfast was laid out on the table, all my favorites. Checking my phone, I saw not only the $1,000 Jake had sent last night, but another payment he'd sent in the early morning. The note read, "Couldn't help myself. Stole a few more kisses." I stared at the additional $1,000 in disbelief. To him, a few kisses really were worth $1,000. Thinking about it made me shiver. I regretted agreeing to such a small fee yesterday. My phone buzzed. "Jake, you up? I'm at the basketball court. Bring me some water." I was about to pretend I was asleep. Then I received another transfer, $520, with a note, "Delivery fee." Like a genie summoned by a magic lamp, I replied immediately, "I'm up. Wait there. I'll bring your favorite drink. No rush. Take your time." What? Take your time? This wasn't just my roommate. This was a money god. And you never keep a money god waiting. I jumped out of bed, freshened up quickly, skipped breakfast, and headed straight to the store. At the basketball court, Jake had just finished a game. A group of girls clustered around him, some offering towels, some water, others trying to get his number. Jake's gaze cut through the crowd and found me. He walked toward me as I handed him the water. He drank right there, in front of everyone, his Adam's apple bobbing in a way that made my imagination run wild. When he finished, he packed up quietly. "Let me shower at the dorm first, then I'll take you out for food," he said. Curious, I asked, "You want a game? Don't you want to celebrate with your teammates?" "You're more important than that," he said, pulling me away. My ears turned red and my heart raced. At the restaurant, he ordered all my favorite dishes. After eating, we returned to the dorm, and I collapsed into bed, falling asleep almost immediately. When I woke, the world turned upside down. The school's confession wall had posted a poll titled "Vote for your favorite campus couple." Seemed normal, except why were Jake and I listed as a couple? Why weren't we in separate categories? And why were we being voted on at all? What would people think of me? Just then, Jake returned from the cafeteria with dinner. I jumped off the bed, showing him my phone. "Jake, do you know everyone outside is saying we're a couple?" Jake didn't look at the phone. Instead, he stared at my feet, frowned, then, like picking up a child, lifted me onto the table. "What are you doing?" He placed my fluffy slippers in front of me, knelt down, and slid them onto my feet. "Don't catch a cold." I suddenly realized how cold the floor had been. I shook my head, pushing the phone at him again. "Look at this." Jake glanced at it blankly and returned to unpacking our takeout. "What kind of attitude is this, Jake? Your reputation is ruined. Aren't you worried?" He said nothing, just handed me chopsticks. At a time like this, he was thinking about food. "Give me your phone. I want to fight them directly," I said. Still nothing. He kept placing food in my bowl. Heartless man. Finally, he took out his phone and tapped something. The mechanical voice announced, "Venmo payment receipt $1,000. Was there any sound more beautiful in the world? If you fight them, you'll fall into the trap of trying to prove a negative," Jake explained. "Even if it's not true, you won't convince them. Besides, first-place winners get a $520 prize. Don't you want that?" The words hit me like a revelation. The $520 prize. I hadn't wanted the money, but now it felt like guaranteed success. I stopped worrying. Our couple, which everyone shipped so hard, won first place. The vote gap between us and second place was massive. The confession wall quickly transferred me the $520 prize. I sent $260 to Jake immediately. Though it was hard to part with, we wanted it together. "Why are you sending me money we want together?" Jake asked, confused. "So we can split it evenly, right?" He nodded but didn't accept the transfer. By evening, still nothing. Worried he was shy, I made an excuse to use his phone. "Jake, can I borrow your phone?" He replied without looking up. "It's on the table. Help yourself. The password is your birthday." After borrowing Jake's phone, I couldn't stop thinking about the confession wall poll. Somehow, the entire campus had decided that Jake and I were a couple. Not separate entries. Together. My stomach twisted at the thought of everyone thinking we were that close. I tried to shake it off, convincing myself it was just a silly campus game. But as the day went on, whispers followed me down hallways. Classmates nudged each other when I walked by, giggling behind their hands. A group of first years even waved at Jake from across the quad, calling out, "Hey, favorite campus couple." I glanced at Jake, hoping for reassurance, but he was entirely unbothered, lounging on the dorm sofa like a king in his domain. He caught my eye and smirked. "What?" I asked, flustered. "Nothing," he said, voice smooth as ever. "Just wondering when my $100 kisses are going to earn me some loyalty points from your classmates." I groaned, hiding my face in my hands. He was enjoying this way too much. As the day went on, the teasing didn't stop. Friends kept nudging me. "So, does Jake really call you hubby? Or are you two, like, dating for real?" Each question made my ears burn hotter than before. During lunch, I tried to sit at a table a little away from the crowd, hoping for some peace. But of course, Jake wasn't far behind. He slid in across from me with a smug grin, carrying 2 sandwiches. "Sharing a table with me, huh?" I muttered, trying to act nonchalant. "Someone has to make sure you don't get lonely while the world whispers about us," he said, giving me a pointed look. I rolled my eyes, but a small smile escaped despite myself. The truth was, it felt nice. Embarrassing, yes, but nice. His presence made everything brighter, easier, and somehow safer, even with the teasing eyes of our classmates. Later, during study hall, the whispers followed me again. Notes were passed subtly. Little hearts drawn in margins. Comments like, "Ship it," or "They belong together." I could feel my cheeks heating every time I caught someone staring. Jake noticed, of course. He leaned over under the guise of helping with a problem in my notebook, and his shoulder brushed mine. The proximity made my stomach flutter. "You're blushing," he said quietly, eyes glinting mischievously. "I'm not," I denied too quickly, pretending to scribble some notes. "Uh-huh," he murmured, his lips twitching in amusement. "Sure you're not." The rest of the study session was torture. Every time he leaned close to explain something, I felt my heart skipping. It was like each accidental touch, each whisper, each playful smirk made the $100 rule irrelevant. I was slowly realizing it wasn't about the money anymore. By evening, we returned to the dorm. Jake flopped onto my bed without warning, grinning like a cat that had caught the cream. "You're thinking about them, aren't you?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. "I know. I mean, yes, but it's not a big deal," I stammered, my face heating up. He chuckled, leaning closer, his hand brushing against mine. "You know, if your blush were currency, I'd pay $1 million for it." My heart skipped a beat. I opened my mouth to argue, but he pressed a finger gently to my lips. "Shoo, just enjoy it," he whispered. And just like that, the playful, teasing dynamic between us deepened. Kisses weren't just transactions anymore. They were sparks, hints of something growing that I wasn't ready to name yet. That night, I lay in bed, thinking back to every small interaction. The shared laughter, the teasing, the accidental touches. For the first time, I wondered if maybe, just maybe, I didn't want the $100 rule to stay in place forever. Maybe I wanted him close for reasons that had nothing to do with money. But if the rest of the campus kept gossiping, I wasn't sure how long I could keep pretending it was all just a joke. Every glance from Jake reminded me that something real was stirring between us, and it scared me in the most exhilarating way possible. The next morning, I was jolted awake by my phone buzzing. "Jake, game today at the basketball court. Need some Gatorade. And don't forget my lucky towel." Lucky towel? I groaned internally. Of course, I'd agreed to be his personal assistant for these little errands, and he knew exactly how to make me feel like I had no choice. By the time I reached the campus store, I was already mentally preparing for the chaos. Grabbing the drink and towel, I made my way to the court, dodging groups of students who had obviously caught wind of the favorite campus couple rumor. Whispers followed me. There he is, with his partner. Do you think they actually date? I tried not to blush, but it was impossible. When I arrived, Jake had just finished warm-ups. A cluster of girls surrounded him, offering towels, water, and unsolicited compliments. Some were leaning close, laughing at jokes I couldn't hear. My stomach tightened with a pang of jealousy, and I realized just how much I cared about keeping him to myself. Jake spotted me immediately, and his grin widened like he'd been waiting for me all along. He waved me over, weaving through the crowd with the kind of ease only he seemed to possess. "Delivery service at your command," I muttered, holding out the Gatorade and the neatly folded towel. He took them without hesitation, the familiar brush of his fingers against mine sending a shock of warmth through me. He tilted his head, glancing around the crowd. "Thanks, baby. You always show up on time." I stiffened at the nickname, my cheeks flaring. Just doing my job," I mumbled, refusing to meet his eyes. He leaned closer under the guise of drinking from the bottle, and the scent of him, sweaty and fresh, somehow intoxicating, hit me full force. My heart thumped audibly, I was sure of it. "Be honest," he said when he finished. "Does it bother you, seeing them around me?" I froze, then shrugged, trying to appear nonchalant. "Maybe a little," I admitted softly, almost inaudibly. Jake's grin softened, a rare, tender expression I didn't see often. He leaned down, lowering his voice just for me. "Good. A little jealousy is cute." I groaned inwardly. "Cute? Really?" My face must have turned tomato red. After the game, he insisted we walk back together. Other students glanced at us, some whispering, some smiling knowingly. Every so often, Jake's hand brushed against mine. It wasn't accidental, and I knew it. Each touch, each lingering glance, made my chest tighten and my thoughts scatter. "Why are you so relaxed?" I asked him, attempting a stern tone I couldn't maintain. "Why wouldn't I be?" he countered, smirking. "I have my favorite delivery person with me." I choked on air at the words. "Delivery person?" I sputtered, mortified. "Yep. And don't worry, the job comes with perks," he said with a wink, leaning closer as he whispered, "Like extra kisses." I felt my knees weaken. I swore I would never get used to how he could make even a simple walk across campus feel like the most intense, thrilling part of my day. By the time we reached the dorm, I was a jumble of nerves and heat. I tried to focus on unpacking my bag, but every brush of his shoulder, every casual lean, kept pulling my thoughts back to him. That night, I lay awake, replaying the day in my head. His touches, his glances, his teasing nicknames, they were all signs that maybe, just maybe, he felt more than just amusement at our little $100 kiss arrangement. And if he did, I wasn't sure my heart could handle pretending it was still just a joke. The day started like any other, but there was a subtle tension in the air. Jake had been unusually quiet all morning, giving me those fleeting glances that made my stomach flutter and my brain scramble. Around noon, I got a text from him. "Meet me outside the dorm in an hour. I have a surprise." A surprise. My heart jumped. I tried not to overthink it. Could it be something romantic? Or another excuse to make me fetch drinks for him? Either way, I was nervous, excited, and suspicious all at once. When I stepped outside, Jake was leaning casually against a motorbike he somehow borrowed, wearing sunglasses and a grin that made me weak in the knees. "Ready?" he asked, tilting his head. I nodded, trying to act cool. "As I'll ever be." We drove off campus, the wind whipping around us. I couldn't help but notice how careful he was, subtly adjusting my scarf, keeping a hand near mine but not quite touching. My heart kept flipping every time our legs brushed. When we arrived at a small cafe tucked into a quiet street, Jake pushed the door open for me like a gentleman. My blush rose as he said softly, "After all the kisses, you deserve something more than just takeout." Inside, the place was cozy. Twinkling lights, the faint aroma of coffee and pastries. He had already reserved a corner table, and a small bouquet of my favorite flowers sat waiting. "You remembered?" I whispered, almost unable to believe it. He smirked. "Of course I did. You think I forget my favorite delivery person's likes?" I rolled my eyes, but the warmth spreading in my chest refused to hide. He reached across the table, brushing his fingers against mine. That touch was different from the accidental brushes on campus. It lingered, deliberate, intimate. We spent hours there, laughing over shared jokes, teasing each other endlessly. He ordered some of my favorite dishes, watching me eat with an intensity that made my ears burn. When I looked up, he was grinning, like he knew exactly how flustered I was. "You're spoiling me?" I said softly, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. "I like spoiling you," he replied without hesitation. "I like seeing you happy." Those words hit me harder than I expected. The playful teasing, the kisses for money, it suddenly felt like a prelude to something real. I caught myself staring at him more than I should, noticing the way his eyes softened when he looked at me, how careful his movements were. After we finished eating, he took me for a walk along a quiet park path. The sun was setting, painting the sky in pinks and oranges. He stopped suddenly, turning to face me. "You know," he said, voice low, "I've always liked spending time with you like this, without distractions, without everyone watching." My heart skipped a beat. I like it too," I admitted, surprised by my own honesty. He leaned closer, so close that I could feel his breath against my cheek. "Good," he whispered, and then his lips brushed mine softly. Just a light kiss, but enough to make my knees tremble. I pulled back slightly, my mind spinning. This wasn't a $100 kiss. This was something else entirely. Something that made me question why he acted so devoted, why even in small gestures, ordering my favorite food, remembering my favorite flowers, he seemed to care so much. As we walked back toward the dorm, I couldn't shake the warmth that spread through me, the fluttering feeling in my chest every time he reached for my hand, every time he smiled at me. Maybe the $100 rule was gone now, or maybe it had never really mattered. And for the first time, I didn't want it back. The day started off with its usual chaos. Notes being passed in class, whispered teasing in the hallway. But now, I felt a strange mix of excitement and anxiety every time Jake was around. The rumors about us being a couple had spread, and though I had brushed them off before, today they seemed heavier somehow. We were sitting in the library, across from each other, surrounded by stacks of books and the quiet hum of studying students. I was trying to focus on an essay when Jake leaned back in his chair, smirking. "You're really serious about that essay, huh?" he teased, nudging my shoulder lightly. "Excuse me," I said, narrowing my eyes. "I am very serious, unlike someone who just flirts his way through exams." He chuckled, leaning closer. "Flirting helps you concentrate, you know? Science." I rolled my eyes, but my heart raced. "Sure, science," I muttered, trying to ignore the warmth spreading in my chest at his proximity. Then, without warning, a stack of papers toppled from the shelf beside us. I jumped back, startled, but before I could steady myself, Jake was there, catching my elbow and holding me upright. "You okay?" he asked, eyes scanning my face for any sign of hurt. I nodded, flustered, but my heart was pounding in a completely different rhythm. "I'm fine," I whispered, my voice barely audible. Jake didn't let go right away. His hand lingered, just a touch, but enough to make me acutely aware of how close we were. "You know," he said softly, "I've got you, always." The words hit me harder than I expected. I opened my mouth to say something, but the words stuck, because did I feel the same way? More than I realized. Trying to shake it off, I shoved his hand gently. "Stop being melodramatic. It's just papers." He smirked, leaning in closer with a teasing glint in his eyes. "Melodramatic? Me? Never." I wanted to roll my eyes, but my cheeks betrayed me, burning hotter than ever. Later that evening, we were walking back to the dorm, the sun dipping low in the sky, casting long shadows across the pavement. I was quiet, lost in thought, when Jake suddenly stopped. "You've been quiet," he observed, tilting his head. "I'm fine," I said, too quickly, too sharply. He didn't push, just offered me that infuriatingly calm look he always had. "You know you can tell me anything, right?" The words caught me off guard. I looked down at my shoes, my stomach twisting. Could I really tell him? Could I admit that I liked the way he always noticed the smallest things about me? That I was flustered by his touches, by the nicknames, by the way he looked at me like I mattered more than anyone else? Before I could answer, he reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair from my face. His fingers lingered, and I caught my breath. "You're adorable when you overthink," he said softly. I felt my throat tighten. I don't. But I didn't finish. Couldn't. Because the truth was already there, hiding behind every blush, every stolen glance, every $100 kiss that had turned into so much more. Jake chuckled, sensing my turmoil, and leaned closer. You don't have to say anything. Just stay like this for a while. And in that moment, I realized I didn't want to say anything. Not yet, because feeling this, being close to him, was enough. The almost confession hung in the air between us, unspoken but understood. And for the first time, I felt a flicker of trust, real, deep trust, that maybe, just maybe, we could navigate these feelings together. The library was quieter than usual, the sunlight streaming through tall windows. I was lost in notes for an upcoming exam when a familiar voice broke my focus. Jake, could you help me with this project? I looked up and saw her, a bubbly, confident girl from one of his classes, holding a stack of papers and smiling brightly at him. My chest twisted unexpectedly. Jake's face lit up. Of course, let's go over it. They moved closer together, heads bent over the papers, laughing and talking. And just like that, I felt the first sharp jab of jealousy in my chest. I tried to focus on my work, but it was impossible. Every laugh, every brush of her hand against his, made my stomach churn. Can't be jealous. It's silly. He's just being nice. Still, when Jake glanced my way and caught my frown, his smile faltered for a moment. Everything okay, baby? He asked, raising an eyebrow. Yeah, fine, I muttered, forcing a smile. My face burned at the nickname, but this time it felt different. More pointed, more personal. After the class, he walked with me back to the dorm. The girl waved at him from across the hall. My grip on my bag tightened. You know, Jake said casually, she just needed help with a project. Nothing more. I frowned, trying to calm my racing heart. I know. It's just weird seeing you with someone else. He smirked, reaching out to tuck a loose strand of hair behind my ear. Weird? Baby, are you jealous? My face flamed red. Maybe a little, I admitted. Good, he said, leaning closer, his lips brushing against mine in a quick, teasing kiss. Jealousy has its perks. I stumbled back, flustered, but unable to stop the small smile creeping onto my lips. Perks? I whispered. Yes, he said, voice low, like spontaneous kisses that don't come with a price tag. The words sent a thrill through me. It wasn't about money anymore. It was about him. That evening, the playful tension continued. We cooked dinner together in the dorm, Jake teasing me about my possessive streak, while I countered with mock indignation. When he leaned over to taste something I was stirring, our hands brushed again, lingering longer than before. Careful? I muttered, feeling my chest tighten. Careful? You mean careful not to kiss me again? He teased, eyes sparkling. Don't push it, I stammered, cheeks burning. But he did, and I didn't stop him. Each kiss was spontaneous, natural, and completely unrestrained. The $100 rule felt like a distant memory, replaced by something warmer, more intimate. By the time we finished eating, I realized just how much I wanted him. Not just for a joke, not just for a playful deal, but because every glance, every touch, every teasing nickname had quietly made him mine in a way I couldn't deny. That night, as I lay in bed replaying the day, I understood something important. Jealousy wasn't just an awkward feeling. It was proof that what I felt for him was real. And the more I felt it, the more I wanted to let him in completely, no rules, no money, just us. It was past midnight when I realized we were still sitting in the dorm common room. Textbooks spread around us, notes scattered across the table. I should have been asleep hours ago, but Jake was distracting in the best possible way. He leaned over my notebook, pointing to a line I had highlighted. See? If you rearrange this paragraph, it'll flow better. I nodded absently, but my attention kept drifting to him. The way his fingers hovered over the page, brushing mine now and then, sent a thrill straight through me. The accidental touches were no longer accidental. They were deliberate, intimate, charged with attention I couldn't ignore. You're quiet tonight, Jake observed softly, glancing up at me. His dark eyes caught the lamplight, making them seem almost too intense. I'm just tired, I mumbled, though the truth was more complicated. I was tired of trying to ignore the fluttering in my chest every time he leaned close, tired of pretending the $100 rule could contain feelings that had grown beyond transactions. Jake leaned back, smirking. Tired, huh? Or thinking about me? I groaned, hiding my face in my hands. Stop teasing me, he chuckled, leaning closer. I can't help it. You make it too easy. A pause stretched between us. I felt his gaze linger, warm and unwavering. It was different from before, softer, more vulnerable. I wanted to say something, confess the way my heart had been quietly twisting every time he smiled at me. Every time he called me baby or hubby. Every time he made me feel special in ways the $100 rule couldn't measure. Before I could find the words, he reached out, brushing a strand of hair from my face. His fingers lingered at my cheek, gentle, deliberate, and my breath caught. You know, he murmured, voice low and careful. You're more important to me than all of this. He gestured vaguely, meaning both the textbooks and, perhaps, the complicated world around us. I swallowed hard, my chest tightening. Jake! But he didn't let me finish. Instead, he leaned closer, pressing his lips to mine in a soft, lingering kiss. It was gentle, exploratory, but the meaning behind it hit me harder than any of the $100 kisses ever had. When he pulled back slightly, just enough for our foreheads to rest together, he whispered, I don't want rules with you anymore. I stared at him, heart hammering. The $100 rule had blurred and faded completely. There were no transactions, no playful deals. Just us, raw and real, in the quiet intimacy of the night. Me too, I admitted, my voice trembling, though it felt like the only honest thing I had said in weeks. He smiled softly, brushing his thumb along my jaw. Good, he murmured, because I've been wanting to say that for a long time. The rest of the night passed in small, quiet ways. Shared glances, fingers entwined, whispers of secrets neither of us had told anyone else. The dorm was silent except for the faint scratching of pens and our occasional laughter. And in those late-night revelations, I realized just how far this had gone. How much I trusted him, how much I needed him, and how much I wanted to see where this could really go. The $100 rule was gone. It had never really mattered. What mattered now was us. The evening air was warm, carrying the faint scent of blooming flowers from the campus gardens. Jake and I were walking back from a late dinner, our footsteps echoing softly against the empty paths. The world felt suspended, as if it had paused just for us. We stopped near a quiet fountain, the water catching the golden light of the street lamps. Jake leaned casually against the railing, watching me with that teasing glint in his eyes, but there was something softer beneath it now, a hint of vulnerability I hadn't seen before. So, he said lightly, are we finally going to talk about it? I blinked. Talk about what? You know, he said, stepping closer. The $100 rule. The kisses for money thing. I think it's time we face the truth. I froze. The $100 rule had been a joke, a way to cope with his constant demands for kisses. But beneath it, something real had been growing, something neither of us had admitted yet. I faltered, searching for words. I didn't think it mattered at first. But now it's not about money anymore. It's never been about money. Jake's lips curved into a soft, knowing smile. Good, because neither was I. My heart skipped a beat. He stepped closer, his hand brushing mine. The familiar warmth sent a shiver down my spine. I like you, Jake, I said, finally letting the words slip, trembling slightly. More than just for fun or money. I've liked you for a while, I think. For a moment, he just stared, eyes wide, before a slow, genuine smile spread across his face. You have no idea how long I've been waiting to hear that, he murmured, voice low and tender. Waiting? I asked, my cheeks heating. Yes, he said, cupping my face gently in his hands. I've been waiting for the moment you'd realize you didn't need to charge me for a kiss, that it could just be us. I felt my breath catch. Jake! And then he closed the distance, pressing his lips to mine in a kiss that wasn't playful, wasn't transactional. It was everything. Warm, lingering, full of the emotions we had both been holding back. My hands found their way to his shoulders, clinging as if to anchor myself to this real, undeniable feeling. When we finally pulled apart, our foreheads rested together, breathing heavy. So, no more $100 rule? I whispered, smiling despite the fluttering in my chest. Nope, he said, grinning. Just kisses. All the kisses you want, no conditions, no price tags. Just us. My heart soared, a mixture of relief, excitement, and overwhelming warmth. The joke that had started as a boundary had led us here, to honesty, to trust, to something real. I like that, I admitted softly. Me too, he whispered, brushing his thumb over my cheek. More than anything. And in that quiet moment, with the fountain's gentle ripple behind us, I realized how much we had grown. How a silly $100 rule had turned into a deep, real connection that neither of us could ignore. Finally, the first full romantic kiss didn't come with conditions. It came with everything else. Trust, care, and the promise of more to come. The campus buzzed with life, students rushing to classes, notes in hand, laughter echoing across the quad. Jake and I had fallen into a rhythm, but even in our newfound closeness, challenges seemed to follow us. Exams were looming, and the tension was palpable. I found myself sprawled across the library table, struggling with formulas, when Jake plopped down beside me, a mischievous grin lighting up his face. Need a tutor? He asked, elbow brushing mine. I need a miracle, I muttered, glaring at the confusing notes. Good thing you have me, he said, leaning over my shoulder. His fingers traced the equations, gently guiding me through the problems. The accidental touches were now deliberate, teasing, and every time his hand brushed mine, my chest tightened. Halfway through the session, a group of classmates peeked over our shoulders, whispering and giggling. There they go again, campus's cutest couple, one said, nudging another. I felt heat rise to my cheeks. Jake caught my eye and winked, leaning closer. Ignore them, baby. They're just jealous. Jealous? I thought. No, I was more protective, possessive even. Every time someone smiled at him, my chest twisted with a pang I didn't quite understand. But Jake seemed to sense it, smiling fondly and brushing a stray hair from my face. Exams weren't the only challenge. Gossip had started creeping into our quiet corners. Someone had posted a rumor about Jake and me, exaggerating a harmless library study session into some campus scandal. Don't worry about it, Jake said calmly one evening as we walked back from a late-night coffee run. Let them talk. We know the truth. I nodded, heart fluttering. His confidence in us gave me courage, but I couldn't stop myself from feeling protective. I grabbed his hand as we crossed the street, squeezing it tightly. Even sports events became moments of subtle intimacy. At a basketball game, Jake was focused on the court, but every time he scored a point, his eyes sought mine. And every time our hands brushed as we cheered, sparks shot through me. Late-night coffee runs became our secret ritual, our small escape from campus chaos. We laughed over shared pastries, teased each other relentlessly, and occasionally, just held hands across the tiny cafe table. Each touch, each glance, reinforced something unspoken. We were stronger together, and no gossip or misunderstanding could change that. By the time finals ended, I realized how much we had grown. Not just as a couple, but as partners in every small, chaotic corner of campus life. Exams, rumors, late nights. They had tested us, but every challenge had deepened our trust and our bond. And as Jake leaned over to whisper, "Next stop, celebration dinner?" I felt my heart swell. Campus life might be hectic, messy, and full of obstacles. But with him by my side, I was ready for anything. The morning sun spilled through the dorm windows, casting a golden glow over our messy room. I was sifting through my notes when Jake sauntered in, grinning like he owned the day. "Morning, baby," he said, plopping down beside me. His hand found mine effortlessly, intertwining our fingers. "Morning," I replied, hiding a smile. Somehow it didn't feel awkward anymore, just natural, just us. Today was different. We weren't hiding behind jokes or subtle glances. We weren't dodging rumors or whispering in corners. Today we were public. Started small. A post on the campus confession wall. This time from someone else entirely, congratulating campus's cutest couple with a photo of the two of us laughing in the quad. Jake nudged me, smirking. "Looks like the world's finally catching on," he said, brushing his thumb along the back of my hand. "I can't believe everyone knows," I murmured, a mix of embarrassment and thrill fluttering in my chest. Jake leaned closer, pressing a soft kiss to my temple. "I like it. No hiding. No rules. Just us." Throughout the day, classmates waved, smiled, and whispered congratulations as we walked across campus together. Some teasing, some genuinely happy, it didn't matter. I felt a warmth I hadn't expected. During lunch, we found our favorite quiet spot under a large oak tree. Jake pulled out a small notebook from his bag. "I wrote something," he said, eyes twinkling. "Don't laugh." I rolled my eyes but leaned in. He read a short, playful poem about us. about stolen kisses, late-night coffee, and how the $100 rule had turned into a million moments of laughter and closeness. "I didn't know you were such a poet," I said softly, smiling. "Don't tell anyone," he teased. "It'll ruin my mysterious reputation." I laughed, leaning my head on his shoulder. The comfort of it was intoxicating. The teasing, the familiarity, the small gestures, holding hands, brushing hair from my face, leaning together in quiet moments, made it clear. We were a team, a couple, fully ourselves in a world that now acknowledged it too. Later, as the sun dipped low, we walked back toward the dorm, fingers still intertwined. "So, no more hiding," I said, glancing up at him. "Nope," Jake replied, squeezing my hand. "Just us, and maybe a few $100 kisses for old time's sake," he added with a wink. I laughed, playfully shoving him. "Don't push it." He grinned, leaning closer for a quick, teasing kiss. "Never could resist you, even with a price tag." And in that moment, as the campus bustled around us, I realized just how far we'd come. The $100 rule was gone. The teasing, the playful challenges, the jealousy, and the quiet nights, they had all led to this. Being public wasn't just about acknowledgement. It was about comfort, trust, and the joy of simply being together. And with Jake by my side, I knew every kiss, every laugh, every small stolen moment was ours, and ours alone. The morning sun spilled over the campus, warm and inviting. Jake and I had decided to dedicate the day entirely to ourselves, a celebration of sorts, a small milestone in our relationship. No classes, no distractions, just us. We started with breakfast at our favorite cafe, the barista greeting us with knowing smiles. "Back again, you two?" she teased. Jake winked at me. "We've got a lot to celebrate." I rolled my eyes playfully. More like another excuse to eat too many pastries. After breakfast, we wandered through the campus gardens, joking, teasing, and stealing glances at each other. Every touch, every brush of fingers, felt natural and comforting now, no longer charged with the $100 rule that had once defined our interactions. Later, we found ourselves sitting under our favorite oak tree, the same spot where so many of our late-night conversations had happened. Jake leaned back, resting his head against my shoulder. "You know," he said softly, "I didn't realize how much I'd changed since all this started." I glanced at him, curious. "Changed how?" He smiled, eyes crinkling at the corners. "I've learned to care about someone more than a joke or a dare, more than the silly little bets we made. I've learned how much you matter to me." I felt my heart swell. "I've changed too," I admitted. "I used to think us was just a game, just fun. But now, it feels like home." He turned to look at me fully, his expression soft and tender. "Then let's make it official," he said, leaning in for a slow, lingering kiss. This one wasn't playful, teasing, or transactional. It was full of meaning, full of the love and trust we'd built together. When we pulled back, I laughed softly. "So, no more $100 rule, right?" Jake grinned, brushing a stray strand of hair from my face. "Well, maybe we should renegotiate. Just for fun," he teased, pressing another quick kiss to my lips. I shook my head, smiling, leaning into him. "You'll never learn, will you?" "Never," he replied, laughing softly. "And I wouldn't want to." The rest of the day passed in blissful simplicity. We played our favorite games, shared ice cream, wandered the campus hand in hand, and laughed until our cheeks hurt. Each small gesture, a brush of fingers, a whispered joke, a soft kiss, was a reminder of how far we'd come. As the sun dipped low, casting golden light over the campus, Jake pulled me close. "Happy us day," he murmured, pressing one last, gentle kiss to my forehead. I smiled, heart full. "Happy us day," I echoed, and as we walked back to the dorm, teasing, laughing, and holding hands, I realized that some things, like love, trust, and the joy of being with someone who truly sees you, were priceless. Even if it had started with $100 kisses.